everybody. I am Suzanne Hacker, and I am a vacation rental business coach as well as the founder of Spectrum Friendly Vacations. And I am here today with Liane, and Liane has a large family. She's going to tell us all about it and also tell us about her experience with autism and children on the spectrum. So Liane, if you could share a little bit with us about yourself and your family to start us off, I would appreciate that.
My name is Liane. I have one husband. We've been married nearly 30 years. We have 12 children. 3 of them are married, and we have 2 grandchildren. So that's us in a nutshell.
Awesome. And then tell us about your child or children who would be considered to be on the spectrum.
So I have 2 children that would be considered on the spectrum. The older one is 14 years old currently. And then the younger one right now, Ninny, who we've talked about, is now 8 years old.
For those of you watching, Ninny is one of the big reasons why I started Spectrum Friendly Vacations. And you will hear about Ninny, Trinity, truly, in the training and also in just Spectrum Friendly Vacations mission and why we started. So this is Ninny's mom. As probably you're going to end up being known. You're Ninny's mom now. So tell us a little bit about the night that really has stood out for me that Ninny decided to do something, and if there's any other situations of things like that.
So we knew that Ninny was on the spectrum before. We call it the game changer that night.
Okay.
So before the game changer, we knew that Ninny was on the spectrum. Ninny was nonverbal, and we had a diagnosis of apraxia of speech, and she's also celiac. So kind of like all of this stuff kind of works together. It's not necessarily that you have all of these things together, but it works together for Nin. It makes up who she is. And we love her to pieces. But prior to the game changer, then it was just keep an eyeball on Nin. We would have Nin checks, like, where's Nin? All right. And everybody would kind of filter through the house. Ninny is the youngest of my 6 daughters. She's number 11 in line. So it's not like there's nobody who sees her or knows where she is at any given time. Like, we got a lot of people that are all, looking high and low. Where did she go? And because she was nonverbal, because she has this apraxia of speech, then she would do a lot of playing in her head. What we kind of consider imaginary play or pretend play. So she was always quiet, and she'd be quiet like in a corner playing with little animal figures, or she'd be quiet in her room dressing up, just putting things on and off. And the whole play was in her head. It wasn't out loud. So that was Nin prior to the game changer. Then we had this night where we were all sitting down. We'd had, I should probably back up just a little bit. So we have a vacation home in Wisconsin. So we had gone up there for the weekend, and we had this night where we were going to be having pizza party. And it was after a day at the beach. It was after, we were like 3 blocks away from the beach. So we had been at the beach, then we went and got ice cream, then we went past the library. Like, we kind of did all the things in the day. It was a fun day. And then we're sitting down and we're having this pizza party. Pizza, movie, imagine 10 children on any flat surface with pizza involved, and start the movie, kind of do the overall check. Who's here? Okay, start the movie. And at some point in time, we don't know when, during that movie, Ninny slipped out. She just went. We have no idea when it was. It sounds really awful. As a parent, you're like, I don't know when they left. But the movie was over, and it was time to start scuttling people off to bed. And it was, hey, locate the Nin. Does she need her teeth brushed? Does she have pajamas on? Is she already asleep somewhere? We couldn't locate the Nin anywhere. We had no idea where she went. You look high, you look low. This is not a big house. It probably total took maybe 10 minutes to search house, garage, yard, attic, basement, brains room, just anything, she is nowhere to be found. And that's where your heart just starts pumping. First phone call was made to the husband, who wasn't in town with us. Second phone call was made to 911. So get on the phone with 911, and they are like, if you could hold on a second. I'm like, is this 911? What do you mean, hold on a second? Well, there had already been a phone call into the police, and the police had said, or not into the police, but into 911 by the police. They had said, we have a child, and they couldn't locate where this child was supposed to go. This child was nonverbal. The child had been spotted by a passerby who had ended up calling the police, which we really appreciate. And the police were looking for, where does this child belong? So that was our game changer night. Put yourself in that situation, just like, ah! And that was the moment where my daughters, all of her disabilities kind of came into focus. Up until that night, it was just find her, put your finger on her. In any given moment, we knew that we could do that. And then all of a sudden, wait a second, what do you mean? She could just do this. She could just wander. And so then it was, all right, so now we really need to figure this out, like take this really seriously, because wandering kind of takes you to like a next level. Even though, and it's kind of like a really weird statistic, but like 1 in 4 children who are on the spectrum wander. I mean, that's almost normal, and yet we still think of it as not normal. We're like, oh no, children who wander, they have issues or whatever. And it's just curiosity. It's, they could have seen a dog during the day at a park, and they're like, oh, dog, and they become hyper focused on it, and they just have to leave so that they can see the dog again, not taking into consideration the dog is not there. It's the middle of the night.
How many years ago was it that happened?
It was August 27th, 2019.
Wow, and you had that exact date in your head. Yeah, and I mean, just hearing your story, I still get shivers. Like, I still, I'm like, I want to be like this, because I remember that night, and I remember your husband calling, and, Ninny was gone, and it was just like one of those things that will always stick in my brain, which is one of the big reasons why I want people to understand this danger with autistic children and wandering, and how important it is then for vacation rentals to be safe for families with autistic children. And when I say safe, I mean certain locks, I mean certain alarms, things like that. It's one of those, not a game changer as far as life necessarily, like it has been for you all, but it's definitely a moment in time that sticks in and will always be in there, and is one of the reasons why Spectrum Friendly Vacations, even came about, and why I wanted to share Ninny's story and make our vacation rentals Ninny proof. It's like Ninny proof those vacation rentals, folks. So thank you for sharing that, because I know that was quite the moment, obviously a game changer for you and your family too. So what you changed in your house after the game changer night in order to make sure that Ninny was safe?
We already had the lack of breakables around the house. We already had things secured down. So like our bookcases are so they're looped onto the wall and screwed in, so they're not going to fall down. So we already had that kind of stuff in our house. After that night, we got magnetic alarms on the windows and on the doors. All of our doorknob entry or press pad entries. So the bathroom, the bedrooms, the utility room at that point in time, outdoor doors that you would have all had alarms on them. We made sure that those were all keyed so that you could not just lock yourself out, but you could also lock yourself in. And it was a necessary. Basically, we needed to not live in a house that had literally alarms on every door. But we needed to maybe block off a room and just say no. And while we're telling her, no, you can't go in there, part of the training is, and the door is locked. So that was kind of like a reminder to her constantly. With our older son, then we had some similar things that we had used for him, like keyed locks and stuff like that, for brothers' bedrooms or sisters' bedrooms, to keep him out of their rooms, so that they had like, all right, he's not going to come in here and disturb my stuff, get into my candy or whatever was in there. So we weren't unfamiliar with that, but it became an extreme measure where it was on every door that we owned. And it could put any kind of locking mechanism on. Every window in the house had the alarms. And then a big thing too for us was, now this was at our vacation home. So it's not like we were there full time by any means. Like the police knew that we had a child who was on the spectrum or who was nonverbal. So one big thing that we did too is we started having Ninny wear an ID bracelet so that like if that ever did happen again, it would be something that would be easily visible, not something that would be underneath clothing, because whenever the police take your child, they're not going to disrobe them to find a sticker on an inside of a jacket or a shirt, or to see if you've like tattooed something on the back of their head. That doesn't happen. So they're looking for some sort of outward visible sign that you have a wandering child. Being the person that I am and not having everything at my fingertips or being super, super, super organized every waking second of the day, that ID bracelet did not go on her every time we turned around. So I purchased a package from Amazon of just those, like you get them at the water park, like disposable paper bracelets that you can like slap on there, so that I could, you know, if I did forget the ID bracelet, I could just write on there, Trinity, you know, phone number, address, and then she could wear that in case I forgot an ID bracelet. So having those things at the house, having the alarms on the house, having the locks on the door were like the biggest, hugest things that we had to do, just to make sure that we could still go on vacation.
And I've learned from talking to other parents that wandering is a big thing with children that are on the spectrum. And just hearing your statistic, you know, like 1 in 4 children, like, oh my gosh, that's like mind blowing, you know, to me. That's just like stuck in my head from earlier in the conversation. It's, you know, it's crazy. And that's why I'm so concerned, because if you're a parent with children and you're on vacation, you're not going to have the local police that know who your child is, you know, and you're not even going to know the neighborhoods. You're not going to know even necessarily where the police department is. You know, yes, you can always know how to call 911, but you don't have that relationship, you know, with them.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about the travel that you and your family maybe did before the Game Changer, and what you are or are not willing to do after that. How did that change you in that area?
Well, we traveled a lot more before that happened. And it was a lot more haphazard travel, you know, just like, oh, you feel like it? Let's just go, you know, and just went and drove and arrived and had a great time and then came home. Now, things are way more planned out. We are looking at, you know, if we're staying in a B&B someplace, we're looking at the layout of the place. You know, how many beds do they have? Where are the beds? We're looking at how many breakables do they have? Are there things that we can put away? You know, like, can we move all of their stuff into a safe location and not have them get mad at us? Do they have a 4-foot glass vase? Because if they do, that is not a possibility for us. Do they have water? Do they have a pool? Because if they do, I need to know where it's located and how it's secured. Do they, you know, beds that we can move so that there can be, if they don't have alarms, which 90% of places that you stay do not have alarms on doors, or locks even for that matter, you know, like for a bedroom door, which totally, I understand. Like, why would you have a lock on the bedroom door to keep a child in? But, you know, for us, then it's a necessary thing. So we would move a bed in front of the door so that somebody would be in front so nobody could leave. Stuff like that, where it's almost like strategic planning takes place now whenever we go on vacation. Really thoughtful planning, like where is the water source located? That's something that Ninny likes, and we know that.
I do think that children that are on the spectrum love pools, they love water, they love lakes, they love beaches, all of those good things. So I definitely see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, and just to know what kind of geography you're looking at. Sure. Another thing that we do, which is suggested by autismawareness.org, is find out where the police department is located. find out where your fire department, police department, where you are is going to be located, and prepare your children for, okay, if anything happens, this is where you go, or this is where you can rest assured there will be somebody in this location or this location who can help you.
Sure.
So that's something that just plays into where we go now.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So why did this topic touch you when I first told you about it? Like, I remember like there was just something like you were just like, I think your comment was something to the effect of, it can finally explain, why we have all of the things that we do. So is that kind of like what happened when you read what I was, like planning to do?
Definitely. Because you don't want, whenever somebody comes to stay in your vacation house, you don't want them to feel like, what's going on in this house? That they have these locks all over the place. You're like, who stays here? What kind of neighborhood is this? And it's not that we're trying to keep people from coming into the house, it's that we're keeping people from leaving the house. If you think of that through somebody else's eyes, what is this going to look like? If somebody walked into my house tomorrow, they would be like, oh my goodness, what are these crazy people and what are they doing? Then you don't want for somebody to be scared to stay in your house, as you're looking at it through the lens of someone else. So to have somebody, you, who verbalized, hey, everybody needs to be able to go on vacation. It was just like such a relief to think to yourself, there's someone else out there that's going to understand why this is the way that it is. And how do you market your house like that? At that point in time, whenever we had started talking about this, how did you market your house as autism friendly? Like, wander-proof? People be like, what have you done? And looking down the road and down the line, it's not just for children, it's also for adults. You have like 55 million people right now who have dementia. And of those 55 million, 1 in 65 is a wanderer. So you've got adults even that maybe don't even know that they have dementia yet. Maybe the loved one is the only one who understands what's going on. And so it can really be used in that aspect too, is that, hey, this is a safe location.
Like, not only is it Ninny proof when Ninny's 4, but it's Ninny proof when Ninny is 70.
Right. Yes,
I love it.
Exactly. Or Ninny proof whenever I'm 70. However the dominoes fall.
Love it. No, that's another good point. So thank you for mentioning that. Because, you're right. And that wasn't even necessarily something I thought about as far as what other people would think about it, when they stayed there. Maybe just partly because it's like, I know, that this is why it's there. Too close, maybe in that situation. Whereas you're right, other people would be like, what kind of neighborhood am I staying in here that they have all of these alarms on the window? Do they really think people are going to be breaking in like all the time? I mean, especially in the neighborhood that we were in, when you were there 4 years ago, and it was just like, yeah, that neighborhood is not a problem. Quiet
side streets, the median age of the people who live there is 70. It's just not a concern, but to keep somebody in the house, that's kind of what you have to do. And that's having alarms and locks whenever you have at any given moment 11 to 14 people in a house, a small house. I can't even imagine if we had like a 2-story house with like 3,000 square feet and you've got maybe 3 people in the house. How would you keep track of, if you're on vacation, how would you relax? How would you keep track of a child? And in my mind, I go, there may be some really chillaxed parents out there who are like, got it handled. We can do that. And, kudos to you and my hat's off to you. I am a little bit more high stress than that. I just require knowing where my child is. I'm never doing that again. Never.
What if you saw and you were looking at Spectrum Friendly Vacations website and there were houses listed that are certified Spectrum Friendly? What additional items besides those safety items, what would you love to see as additional comfort, maybe items or things that Ninny maybe would really gravitate to, or also your other child who's on the spectrum a little?
Well, for little kids, I think that it's easy. Just having some stuffed animals there that you're okay with letting them take off with. And, or big thing, having washable. things there. Not having a whole bunch of stuff that's going to need to be specialty cleaned. I mean, I love linen as much as the next person, but if you don't want your linen destroyed, maybe it shouldn't be the accent point of your home if you are spectrum friendly. Having headphones, a set of headphones there, noise canceling headphones, would really be wonderful, because sometimes you think that you pack everything and you just miss that one thing. Or you don't necessarily realize that your child who's on the spectrum has an issue with sensory whenever it comes to noise or something like that, because they're always in your house. Whenever they go to a new house, you've got different cars that are driving past. You're in a different home that's making different noise. Something like that can be a lifesaver. You know, whenever they're on vacation, they're like, what is going on? Why are you having such a hard time? And they're not even thinking to themselves, oh, wait, you know, this is a different location. You're hearing all of these different noises. Sure. So having those kinds of things where you're just sensitive to the fact that it is a new location and making them feel as comfortable as humanly possible. I personally would like to see people having, locks on windows and locks on doors, or alarms at the very least. Having an alarm would be huge. Having something like name tags or something like that if they're in a new location that you can slap on your child, because you don't know what you're losing as you're on vacation. And then you're like, oh no, I don't have the ID bracelet. If you have some disposable ID bracelets with some Sharpie markers there, that would be, a big thing, a huge thing for a sensory friendly house. And then, just really making it a warm and welcoming place doesn't necessarily have to be filled with a whole bunch of stuff. Sometimes less is more, especially whenever you're talking with a sensory friendly thing. So if you could, accent walls are amazing, but if you could not have a brilliant orange accent wall that's going to send my older child through the roof because he's like, orange wall, orange wall, orange wall, then that would be great. And I realize that that's like a big thing. People are like, I'm giving up my aesthetic. If you're going to be a sensory friendly house, you are going to have to give up some of your aesthetic, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It kind of opens new doors.
Or it's finding a way to make those aesthetics be warm and welcoming to everybody, and not just a specific segment either. So how can spectrum friendly vacations then best help families or parents who are looking to travel? Like, what would be the best way that we can support families, if you will? Or can you think of, I guess what I'm trying to say is, are there certain organizations that you're like, you've got to make sure that you look up this or that?
Oh, there definitely are some organizations. Aware.org that has like a whole packet of information for you for dealing with anything under the sun autism. And they're fantastic. They answer the questions before the questions are even asked. The CDC.gov has a whole thing about autism. They even will direct you to different locations. I know they'll direct you to Aware. They'll also direct you to Autism Speaks. And they will even give you more information about just kind of what to expect whenever you have somebody in your home that has autism, what's normal and what's not. And then missingkids.org also has great information. They even have both, I think Missing Kids and the Aware both have something called a red toolbox, which basically is just a download of papers letting you know what you may or may not have or need for children who are on the spectrum. It has like stuff like putting down the number of your police station or your fire department, even putting on the address and just having that in a easy to reach location for people who are staying there. So like you have your book there, your welcome book of these are the restaurants and all that kind of stuff, and you could easily just slip those papers into the welcome book and say, and hey, if you needed anything, here is. Something that would be really great for short-term vacation rental hosts would let their police department know ahead of time, hey, my home is friendly for people who have special needs. And that special needs can be anything. It's not just autism. Sure. It could be people who are deaf or people who are blind or people who have ambulatory issues or, whatever the case may be, diabetics, staying at the house, but just to let the police department know ahead of time, hey, we're a safe place for these people. And, we just want to let you know that we're doing this, this, and this. We have your information on hand in case anybody needs it. That's just kind, I think, to the police department to be like, I'm just giving you the heads up in case you have any wandering kids, because the first place that the police will go, they actually call the school department first. And if you're on vacation, your child's not enrolled in that school. They're not going to know who you're talking about. Right. So that was their main point of reference, was the school. It's like, sorry, we can't help you. Great. So now we just have this child and we need to figure out where they go.
Okay. So is there anything that I didn't ask you that you were just like, Suzanne, I really want to share this with people about spectrum friendly or autism?
1 in 44 children is on the autistic spectrum. And whenever you put that into its place, that's actually a lot of people. And they're being diagnosed or being placed on the spectrum more and more often every day. So that means that we have this spectrum, meaning wide range, rainbow type of range of, what these children need or don't need or what they could use. So it's not like it's just a one size fits all. Like as people are looking at the possibility of becoming spectrum friendly, don't be offended if someone's like, oh, that just doesn't suit our needs. Or if they give you criticism like, hey, that was great, but we really needed X, Y, and Z. It's constantly changing and everybody is different. So you just do the best that you can do. And then we're all learning as we go along.
Yeah. And I completely agree. Because it's like, I know that we can't make even the spectrum friendly rentals, we can't necessarily make them comfortable for all children on the spectrum. My biggest concern is making them safe for children on the spectrum. And once we know that for most of them, they're going to be safe, then let's talk about things that can help make a lot of the children more comfortable. Even though, yes, it's a hit or miss, whether it's going to work or not, because it's a strange environment, is number one, and that often I'm sure has its own triggers. So
yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for taking your time out today to help us to kind of spread the message and make more people even just aware of autism in general, and then also traveling with children on the spectrum, and then what we can all do to kind of help, because everyone deserves a vacation.
Well, thank you so much, Suzanne. Really appreciate it.